From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I'm Carla González, and this is From the South. We start in Venezuela, where President Nicolas Maduro announced on Thursday 1 million young people are now part of the Chamba Juvenil Plan, a social program that promotes jobs for youngsters in the country. Maduro expects that 500,000 people more will be added to the program in the coming months. He also announced those who just joined the Chamba Juvenil Plan will receive a bonus of 1 million bolívares as a measure to fight the economic war currently underway against the country. Maduro also called on the people of Aragua to vote on the upcoming presidential election.
For the young people that just joined the Chamba Juvenil program, I just approved all the resources for you to receive 1 million bolívares from today. 1 million bolívares for the people that are part of the Chamba Juvenil program. All the resources for this have been approved.
President Maduro also announced the creation of a digital cryptocurrency bank for youth and students. The new financial institution will begin its activities with 20 million petros, the national cryptocurrency that corresponds to $200 million. Maduro said this will support the creation of youth ventures.
Yo quiero que cada liceo tenga una granja.
I want every school and university to have cryptocurrency farms, to mine petros. I want cryptocurrency farms in every community and neighborhood. I want every neighborhood to have cryptocurrency, so that is why I am creating the first cryptocurrency bank for youth, for students. I am assigning 20 million petros for its opening.
And we continue in Venezuela, where the Democratic Unity Coalition continues to boycott the May 20th election, despite their division ahead of voting day. Meanwhile, opposition presidential candidate Henry Falcón campaigned in the popular neighborhood of Minas de Baruta, east of the capital city Caracas.
A typical game of dominoes on a Caracas street corner. It's a way for friends to get together and forget their cares. The only thing they don't want to talk about is candidates.
If we talk about politics, it destroys the essence of the game and we get nowhere. We just want to have fun with some friends.
The political game is more contradictory. The sign outside this opposition office says together to win the election. But they aren't together, and these leaders of the old opposition are here to repeat that they won't go to the elections. They're under pressure from their own members, and their reactions show the strains.
My organization, Democratic Action, has about 560,000 registered members who have supported the party through thick and thin, but I can't guarantee that none of them will decide they want to vote. That would be impossible.
Other leaders of this MUD coalition insist that anyone who votes for Henry Falcón, the opposition independent who is standing, are automatically excluding themselves.
Obviously, those who decide to follow a line that isn't the one decided, they are outside the mud.
Here in this poor Caracas neighborhood of Minas de Baruta, members of those same parties that are calling for a boycott are out campaigning for Henry Falcón.
Grassroots members like us are calling on people to vote. We can't keep giving away space in our country. We already gave away the National Assembly.
Falcón is good at pressing the flesh, and he's calling on other parties to support him. If he were to form a joint slate with a third-place candidate, he could give President Nicolas Maduro a real run for his money.
We need to take up this challenge of a new government of real unity, a government of transition and salvation for Venezuela.
In places like this, Henry Falcón is picking up support from opposition supporters who want change, but believe the ballot box is the only way of getting it. And that has the pro-boycott parties worried. Ian Bruce, Telesur, Caracas.
Venezuela's president of the National Electoral Council, Tibisay Lucena, called for voters to participate in an electoral drill this coming Sunday.
This coming Sunday, we will have an electoral drill. This is a great opportunity for political organizations and for voters to go to a polling station and get familiar with the voting system.
In Colombia, the violence against social leaders continues. The social movement Ríos Vivos, or Living Rivers, denounced the murder of one of its members, the leader Hugo Albeiro George Pérez, in the department of Antioquia. Pérez died after being shot several times by two armed men. According to Ríos Vivos and its members, this assassination could be related to the protest of the families affected by the construction of a hydroelectric project by the company Hidroituango. The members of the movement demand justice and accuse the Colombian government of being unable to stop this dramatic situation that has already left 46 social leaders and defenders of human rights killed this year. And tired of the situation, Colombian social movements and human rights activists are now asking the Inter-American Court of Human Rights to take action over the increase of murders, threats, and attacks in the country.
After the increase of social leaders' murders, human rights organizations have condemned the ineffectiveness of the Colombian government to stop this dangerous situation.
Between 2016 and 2018, there were 282 homicides, 46 this year, according to the group Somos Defensores. The numbers have not been consolidated. The Special Investigation Unit is not working. The Technical Agency for Security and Protection, which was planned as part of the peace agreement, has not been implemented.
According to social movements, these murders are directly linked to political and economic interest and to those who are against the peace process.
Anyone can see that the land occupants are behind the deaths, the occupants that everybody knows that are posing as the owners of the land. But we know what happened to the notaries and the authorities in the region.
Precautionary measures are urgently needed to prevent another genocide like the one that happened against the leftist Patriotic Union Party in the 80s and the 90s.
We believe that the precautionary measures are a priority for the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, the UN, and the OAS, because they should be very concerned about the dreadful situation that needs effective measures from the state.
And even though the murders keep increasing, social leaders say their fight for peace and justice will not stop.
The campesinos involved in illicit crops have stated that we are still betting on peace and the voluntary crop substitution, but this has to stop now. This is an SOS to the world to help the Colombian social movements.
Cauca, Choco, and the north of Santander are the regions where there has been the highest number of murders against social leaders, human rights activists, and land complainants. Social movements are not only calling out the state's inability to protect the social leaders' lives, but also the criminalization of social protest, the militarization of some regions, and the lack of knowledge about the increase in paramilitary activity.
The National Assembly in Ecuador has approved a border law to tackle violence on the border with Colombia. The Border Commission announced also new measures focused on progress, security, and development.
The Border Commission is addressing the principal issues confronting issues on the border with Colombia. The major issues are the reform of the public and state security law, analysis of the new threats for citizen security, and prevention and combat for organized crime.
There are people in San Lorenzo in shelters. They and their kids lack proper education. We will take the respective action we must take as prosecutors, coordinating and regulating institutions which give these services.
Authorities now have to reactivate the production and economy of the border cities. The Assembly is also working with the mayors of the border cities who are demanding action from the government.
The people from Tulcán must continue to make a stand, striking and speaking out. But we cannot do it alone. We really need the state officials to establish policies for support and impulse.
The Ecuadorian authorities say they are working on covering terrorist attacks, but for Ecuadorians, words are not enough. For those who have to live there, it's a difficult situation, so they are also demanding more action from the Colombian government. Denise Herrera, Telesur Quito, Ecuador.
We'll take a short break now, but join us after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. The leftist favorite to be Mexico's new ex-president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, suggested there could be changes to the country's constitution and a revocation ballot halfway through presidential terms. López Obrador, a three-time candidate, has used his campaign to ask people to vote for his Together We'll Make History coalition and its legislative candidates, so Congress can be really free from corrupt senators and representatives.
Citizens will always have control over who is in power. Every 3 years, I did say 2 years before, but so as not to waste money, we will do it halfway through the presidential term with an election. The question will be whether you want the president to continue or resign.
2 months away from the presidential elections in Mexico, López Obrador says security needs to be a vital topic in the country's agenda.
Candidate Andrés Manuel López Obrador has made security a linchpin of his electoral campaign.
70 people are murdered every day in Mexico. That's 400 people a week. Fewer people died in the earthquake.
From the beginning of the campaign, voter polls have shown that López Obrador has an advantage of between 18 and 20 points from his closest rivals. In the latest poll, published 10 days before the first debate, he's been once again placed first.
Mexicans need to make peace with each other. No more hate, no more grudges. We need peace.
Strategies attempting to damage López Obrador's image have included infiltrating agitators during public events to initiate violence, like what happened outside the venue of the first debate. Another weapon being brandished against López Obrador is an alleged documentary that has no release date or distribution channel, but which has been heavily publicized all over Mexico City. The adverts show López Obrador next to Latin American leaders who have been called populists by the right wing. The presumed creators of the documentary have complained about being censored, which provoked a response from the Morena party.
We strongly believe in freedom of speech. We want to know who's behind this publicity. Asking where the money comes from is quite different than censoring.
Since 2007, electoral law limits the amount of advertising that can be purchased on traditional media, which has led to the so-called dirty war on social media. A digital research firm has identified that up to 30% of political content in social media comes from fake accounts.
Dozens of Central American migrants have turned themselves into a U.S. border processing center seeking asylum. They were part of a caravan of 140 migrants, primarily coming from Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, who are escaping gang violence as well as political and economic problems in their countries. Lawyers on the scene say that those able to apply for asylum have been, for the most part, from Honduras. Others remain at the border alongside activists and legal counselors as they try to find a way to have their cases heard.
We are asking for asylum, that they help us, because the truth is we can't go back to the country. That's why we left there, because we are scared of many things.
I estimate that there are approximately another 70 Karen migrants who are on the border but haven't crossed yet. Some who will request asylum, others who are analyzing their cases, their possibilities.
And now moving to Brazil, where the landless workers movement is holding its national fair for the third year in a row to discuss land reforms and bring together local farmers and producers. Farmers are bringing about 350 tons of organic food produced by more than 800 campesinos without the use of pesticides and toxic chemicals. They display fruits and vegetables from 24 different states. The fair, which will last until May 6, will also give social movements the chance to discuss social rights.
Es el resultado de todo el proceso.
This is the result of a process of struggle by the landless workers. And for this third event, we brought more than 300 tons of food produced in our communities and temporary camps, where we fight for agrarian reform. Across the country in 24 states, we produced great agro-agricultural diversity, bringing healthy food for everyone, which is the culture of the landless movement. We bring our experience of agricultural ecology and artisan production methods and the flavors, colors and diversity of our produce.
Trayendo artesanato.
Nosotros somos del estado de Sergipe.
We are from the state of Sergipe. We were the first to arrive with our truck filled with products made in a family environment, so people from Sao Paulo can eat healthy food without toxins. We have several settlements in Sergipe, and we are very proud of traveling every year to participate in the fair. We want to invite everyone to participate.
La Feria de Sao Paulo.
The state budget for bilingual education in Peru will be cut by half, and 1.5 million indigenous students will be affected.
The communities of the Amazon and the rural areas are the most at risk. 19,000 schools are in danger of disappearing after the government reduced the budget of 73 million soles in 2017 to 12,500,000 soles for this year, according to the Ombudsman's office.
The idea was for the budget to increase, to be able to fulfill the demand of pedagogical requirements. By 2016, we only had 21% of bilingual schools that had this strategy.
Intercultural education is a process that started 40 years ago in Peru and has a national action plan for 2021. In 2021, the state funding should reach 100%.
800 professors graduate every year from universities. We need 20,000. That means we will have to wait 20 years to cover the deficit of intercultural teachers in our country.
For Roger Rumril, specialist on topics of interculturality, the Peruvian state is dysfunctional.
This is a multilingual, multicultural nation. More than 60 languages are spoken in our country. On the other hand, we have a monocultural state of colonial origin. Therefore, the first step is a deep reform of this monocultural state to adapt it to this nation. If that step is not taken, nothing will change.
As well as bilingual education, justice, economy and medicine, among other areas, are part of the reality that must be seen in a comprehensive reform of the state that works for the benefit of the people.
We'll take one last short break, but join us after another look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that a possible U.S. withdrawal from the 2015 nuclear deal with Iran would be a hugely regressive step for the world.
If the U.S., as President Trump has repeatedly stated, will announce withdrawal from this agreement, then of course all of us, the international community, will lose one of the most important tools for preventing the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction.
Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif has ruled out a possible renegotiation of the Iran nuclear deal.
In the last year or so, we've been told that President Trump is unhappy with the deal. And it now appears that the response from some Europeans has been to offer the United States more concessions from our pocket. This appeasement entails promises of a new deal that would include matters we all decided to exclude at the outset of our negotiations, including Iran's defensive capabilities and regional influence.
The rise in the price of rent in Spain is triggering an increase in evictions, and the tourism boom is only aggravating the situation.
Tourists on trolleys looking for the address of their hotel is an ever more common image in Lavapiés. It's one of the oldest and most multicultural districts of the center of the Spanish capital, Madrid. The neighborhood has already been given the nickname Madrid's Hotel, and tourism is responsible for kicking locals out. Recently, the building Argumosa 11 was sold to a real estate company that then immediately requested that all the residents leave.
In my personal case, I don't have anywhere else to go. The center of Madrid is for rich people, and I live on a pension of 370 euros. And right now, there's no place available for this price.
In the last year alone, the average price for rent in the area has risen by 15%.
Greed is ruining everything. This rent bubble is fatal for us.
30 neighbors will be evicted from these houses. That will raise their rent to between 600 and 800 euros. These rates are unaffordable for the residents being kicked out.
My whole world is here, my social life too. I have been living here for 20 years. I have my doctor, I have my people. I'm already 68 years old, and it's difficult to get a job. I don't know what to do from now.
In just 2 years, Lavapiés has increased the number of vacation rental houses by 85%. The residents are facing a difficult problem as the housing companies aren't doing anything illegal.
It's so full of aggressive liberal policies that take away protection for citizens. There is no regulation in housing matters, and that lets private companies manage housing prices at will.
The neighbors of Argumosa 11 have organized marches for the weeks ahead to mark a neighborhood struggle. Their objective is to keep living in their city.
Now let's have a look at some other stories making headlines from around the world.
The Nobel Prize in Literature 2018 won't be given this year after the committee selecting the winners was engulfed in sexual assault allegations. It is the first time since 1949 that there will be no literary award. The committee said they will have 2 winners in 2019 instead. The decision was made after a string of sexual assault allegations were reported against French photographer Jean-Claude Arnault, the husband of Academy member and poet Katerina Frostenson. Hundreds of railway workers and unions are still protesting in France against the government-proposed economic reform plans. The protests are now entering their 2nd month. The government plans to open up national state-owned railway company SNFC to competition from private operators in line with EU regulations. It also plans to reduce rail staff's benefits.
They must put themselves in everyone else's shoes. On one hand, there is the government, and on the other, there are striking workers. We are being attacked, and this is making us angry. They must quickly reach an agreement for the sake of the commuters.
At least 4 miners have died and 6 others have been severely injured after being trapped in a gold mine in Masakane, South Africa. The miners got stuck after a 2.2 magnitude earthquake hit the region on Thursday. Earlier this year, almost 1,000 miners were trapped following an electric cable outage in another mine in the area. Miners' dangerous working conditions continue to be in the country.
The Dakar Biennale, one of the continent's biggest exhibitions of African contemporary art, opens in the Senegalese capital of Dakar. From May 5 to June 2, more than 100 artists from across the continent will exhibit their work and perform. As it is held every 2 years, Dakar gives African and diaspora artists an opportunity to engage with each other and with audiences from around the world. And with that, we come to the end of this news brief. But this and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And you can also follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.